Pauline, and I'm going to be talking to you about how I built an online presence through my blog and through Twitter and social media. My talk's going to be a bit different to the first two. I just sort of realised, it just sort of hit me that it's more, everyone who's spoken so far is more focused on research, but mine's just my own sort of personal thing I do on the side in addition to everything else I do. So, hi, I'm Pauline, like I said. I do a lot of things. I'll quickly run through everything so you sort of get a general idea of like my background and everything. So, I am a front-end web developer at the Croto Research Institute. So it's just down opposite the walk-in centre. And I designed one of their websites for their research projects. I'm also a community builder with a community called Code First Girls. So Code First Girls is an organisation in London that tries to teach female students across the UK how to code, and these girls who take part, they have like no knowledge and no technical knowledge at all. So we teach them HTML, CSS, and Python. And I'm a hackathon organizer with ScHARR Sheffield. And so MedTech is a society at Sheffield Uni where we try and bridge the gap between medicine and tech. And we run a hackathon, and a hackathon, in short, is a 24-hour marathon where students and other people who want to get involved code and hack for 24 hours, and at the end of it they create like a product that they talk about to other people, and we have loads of sponsors and employers who come in, and some of them get hired from that. And I also am an intern just across the road with University of Sheffield Enterprise, and I blog at my own website called Pauline, spelled very smartly. And also on the side I study biomedical sciences. I'm in my final year. So yeah, my focus today is my blog. So I started this blog in 2015. I reopened it after blogging for I officially started blogging when I was like 8, but you know. But it was on a different platform, but I recently, 2015, rebranded my own blog called A Blog by Pauline, Pauline.com. And so far, since I opened it, I've had around 32,000 views and reads on it, and it's been read across the world. So specifically, loads of people read it in the UK, but obviously you get people from America, Asia, and everywhere else. And yeah, so I want to talk about my blogging experience and how my platform has helped bring benefits that it has, and cons that I've got, and challenges. So when I started blogging, I started, I don't know how, every time I think back at how I started, it's quite weird, but it started with a game. So there was this game here, it's sort of blurred out, but it was a game called RuneScape. So if any of you know RuneScape, no? Show of hands? Oh, one person, great! So RuneScape was a game I played when I was like 7 because I had access to the internet. And it's just an online platform where you can play video game, play in like an open world game sort of thing. And you can just walk around and talk to other players, and the point of it is to increase your skills in like chopping wood and making houses and stuff like that. So I was really obsessed with it, but it got to a point where I was like, I want to create something similar, but change it like slightly, just because I felt like there was elements I didn't like about it, like, oh, I wanted to do this, but I can't, and it was very limiting. So as this 8-year-old girl, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a game exactly like this. So that's what I did. Well, I didn't know where to start, and the first thing was, it was hosted on a website, so I was like, okay, baby steps. The first thing I need to do is create a website. So I asked myself, how do I create a website? And the first thing I did was Google it, and through Google I found this platform called Pixo. It's shut down now, but it was like the first thing I sort of went on to start building websites, and it's honestly just a drag and drop tool, sort of like webs.com or Squarespace. So it was similar to that, and so I just started putting a website together, and I had like my ideas of how this game would work. So I put like all my drawings and all of like the features I would like to have on it. And so I did that, but then after a while I wanted to explore the actual back-end coding of it, and I wanted to do everything myself instead of having like, again, Pixar was just drag and drop, and it was just very limiting, so I wanted to do something that I had full control of. So I went onto free webs, which is now, I think, webs, which is similar. It's still drag and drop, but there was elements where I could code things myself. And that's how I actually started web development and how I started to learn how to code. I'm completely self-taught, so I just learned how to make a website. So I made a website, and then eventually, after a few years, Namecheap is a domain company where you buy domain names, and you can get hosting from them too to host your websites. And so I was like 11 at this point, and I joined Twitter, and they had a Christmas Namecheap domain giveaway, and so I was like, oh, I want to get involved in that. So as an 11-year-old with no money, and I tried to explain to my parents what I was trying to do. They were like, no, we're not going to give you our credit card to buy a domain name, because they didn't understand what that was. So I won one for free. So my first domain was like something silly like promise or something. .com, where I actually moved away from from game development and this crazy idea of rechanging RuneScape to just writing about like my life, and it just slowly became like an online diary. And then I also taught myself web development and CSS, and throughout my time of learning those languages, I talked about it on my blog, on the website I made, and it was like a really nice journey, a really nice diary. I could look back and be like, guess what I did today? I wrote a CSS style that made a certain color change, a certain text change color, and so I did that. And yeah, so I started building this platform, and over time I didn't realize how powerful it would be like in the future. So like at that time, all I wanted to do was create a website and share what I was learning along the way, and I didn't really realize the impact it had. So I started so it was just my blog. It just became a place where I could just share my thoughts, my stories, my experiences, and then eventually what it has become now is just, again, a place where I can just share all my thoughts, but it has evolved over time. So instead of me sharing stories about my maths teachers, like, I don't know, like doing something in class, I now share like topics that are important to me, that are, I feel like, because I get a lot of readers that I feel like can get like a message across. So I talk about tech, I talk about inclusion, I talk about traveling, personal and professional development, reflections, and health and well-being, which is something I'm very, very passionate about. So it's just become a place where I just share my passions and try and connect with other people, so that they can sort of look back at themselves and be like, oh yeah, I want to sort of do this change, or be motivated to do something with the content I share. So yeah, on my website there's an archives page where you can go through all the topics, so if you're interested, check it out. So why do I blog? I think one of the main things reasons I blog is to continue this, like I said, share my passions and to work out loud. And working out loud is essentially what everyone else has said so far. It's sharing your research, sharing what you're doing, and hoping, like, because whatever you share online, people are going to look at it. Like, as soon as you publish something, even if you don't get like the engagement straight away, over time people will notice. People will know that, they will know what you do. And who doesn't want to be known for what they do, right? Right? So I want to share a little story. Like, so my blog has given me like a ton of benefits, like in my in my personal development and professional development, so I want to share a few benefits. So, early 2016, which was in like January, I was in my second year, and I just finished my January exams, and I absolutely hated. I hated how I felt about like my degree. I felt like it wasn't bringing me much value. I loved learning about science, but I felt like I didn't want to just be a lab technician in the future, because a lot of people who could come into my careers, into the careers lecturers, they'd come in and say, okay, what can you do with your biomed degree? You can be a lab technician or a researcher. And like, even though those sounded super cool, especially researchers, I didn't feel like I had a topic that I really wanted to study. I wasn't very passionate about it. I just loved talking about science, you know, about things I've learned. So I started looking for a placement year to get some sort of professional experience. And so I kept going to like pharma companies, and when they'd interview me for a lab role, I would just slowly realise that I really, really, really did not want to do a lab-based role. So I kept looking for different types of placements, and it wasn't until I got sort of found on LinkedIn by this recruiter in a company in Oxford called Biotechne. And they found me on LinkedIn. They loved everything I was doing, and it was actually a graduate position. And when they contacted me, I was like on the phone to them, like, oh, by the way, I'm still a student. I'm looking for a placement year. I haven't graduated yet. And they're like, oh, that's fine. So I went to see them, and it was actually a sort of lab-based placement. And when I sat there and they spoke to me, I talked to them about my blog and what I do and everything, and they started realizing, they actually told me, they said, oh, have you ever thought of doing anything in the more like communication side or the marketing side of things? Because I think you're really good at sharing like a narrative, and you're really good at like communicating things you're really passionate about. I think in my interview, it was like an hour and a half where I spoke about how important technology is in this day and age, because I got really nervous. So yeah, and then they were like, have you ever looked into that? And then even though I didn't go get the placement, they gave me amazing feedback, and from that I actually got an offer at Sheffield University, where they were looking for a communications and external engagement assistant intern at the Department of Urban Studies and Planning. And I went to the interview there, and one of the questions they asked me was, what do you like to do in your spare time? And my blog. I just talked to them about my blog and the whole history of it and everything I've just said, and they were really impressed, and I managed to get the offer. So in the year 2016 to 17, I worked at the Department of Urban Studies and Planning, where I did communications and external engagement, and it was the best year of my life. I loved working at university. I loved learning how the back end of university works. I worked with the professional services staff there, and I was just exposed to a load of different experiences that I felt like set me up for like the future, like very well. So here are just some pictures. So that's my team there, and this is me during the graduation ceremony, where I got to take loads of nice pictures of people. I did a few talks, and I won 3 Green Impact Awards for it. So if you're not familiar, the Green Impact project at university, there's a workbook that you fill in and everything. And I loved it. I did the whole workbook, but I felt like I could do a lot more. So since I have this background in creating websites, I asked the Green Impact people, and I said, hey, I can improve your website for you, like completely free, because I'd like to improve it for you and everything. And I managed to, so I did a lot of like side projects, including the workbook, and I got to do more coding, more communicating like the Green Impact mission in different ways, and I absolutely loved it. So throughout my placement, I started writing blog posts about little checkpoints. So it was just a really good way of me like reflecting on each major part of my placement, and eventually this was my favorite blog post I've ever written. It's a reflection of my placement year. So I did a whole blog post just writing about my experience, and what I learned and what I'm going to take on forward from this. And this blog post actually got me a lot of views from, it was shared around the university, but also employers in industry. So I got loads of opportunities just from this blog post. So after this, straight after I finished my placement year, I went on to do 2 other placements in 2 tech industries, in 2 tech companies. And yeah, so I did a placement with TechDebt. They're just in town and they focus on creating apps and websites for people. And I wouldn't have gotten that placement if I didn't communicate how I wanted to do something else with my degree, how I wanted to sort of stand out in that way. And I also was part of a podcast, and that was pretty cool. So all my emojis have all disappeared. But the first lesson from my building my online presence and blogging, the first benefit I got from it is I get to have a unique selling point. When I'm sat there in an interview, I'm talking, and I tell the employer, oh, I do biomedical sciences. I was part of the society. I'm sure they've heard it so many times. But I get to talk about how something I'm very passionate about, something that I could be, that sort of like brightens up the whole mood and stuff, and it calms my nerves. So I talk about how amazing, how I blog, and how they can check it out if they want to, and then they can read more about me. And I think a lot of employers nowadays read up on you, they Google you, and my blog is the first thing that comes up if you Google me. And it's nice because it builds a picture of, they have a picture of me in their head before they meet me, and when they meet me, I hopefully it confirms who I'm like online. So, and also, I'm just aware of time now, but one of the another thing that sort of benefited me of having this blog is I get to build an amazing network and build more meaningful relationships. So this is sort of, so like I said before, when I put myself out there, a lot of employees have come to me, and a lot of people who I want to communicate to and connect with have come to me. So people in the tech industry, for example, I talk a lot about tech and inclusion with my work with Code First Girls, and because I write about it and because I communicate it out there, a lot of the people in that community that I want to know have come to me and said, hey, I've read your blog post, that's really cool, that everything you do, and I've just made more meaningful relationships with them. And these 3 pictures actually are 3 bloggers I've known that I've just met online. And I feel like when I sat down and spoke to them, I connected with them a lot more than the people that's in my sort of area. And there's actually a really good podcast that I recommend you listen to. It's called Relationships by the Minimalists, and they talk about how you can make more meaningful relationships with people sometimes you don't even know, just because a lot of us day in, day out just make relationships with people who are just in our immediate field of in location, so like people you go to work with and everything. So yeah, I recommend that podcast. It's really good. So basically, I get to talk build more meaningful relationships from my blog. Okay, and like I said before, it's helped sharpen my skills. So without my blog, because in addition to like writing about topics I love, that's helped build my written communication skills, and that's helped a lot with essays and like changing tones for different audiences and everything. I've also helped build my web development skills in addition to it, because my blog, like if you go on it, it's a website that I've made like totally from scratch, and I taught myself everything from like WordPress, from like cPanel, from how servers work, all by myself. And that has actually led me to get more like other jobs that I'm interested in. Like I'm doing the web dev role right now with Proto Research Institute, and without my knowledge of how I build websites and stuff from my blog, I wouldn't have got that. So, and like I said, it's like my online diary, and I get to reflect back on things, on key moments and key topics, key events. And I think it's really good for me to look back on and read and see how far I've come. And I'm all about personal development and professional development. So yeah. And self-care. So my blog is has always been my happy place. So no matter like if I'm going through a bad day, uni's too stressful, it's always going to be a place for me to just sort of get things off my chest. And that doesn't mean I necessarily publish everything that comes into my head, but it really helps make write things like certain events in a more positive way. So like lessons I've learned and stuff. And yeah, so this all sort of applies to Twitter and on LinkedIn too. And yeah, so I've had a lot of challenges with blogging and sharing on social media. A lot of them everyone has already said, but one of the main things for me is that sometimes I want to share a story that's really affected me in a negative way, just so I can talk to other people about how I overcame it. But obviously, like I said, as soon as you publish something online, it's there. Like, it's part of your digital footprint, like, forever. So you just have to be more mindful of how you share, like the things you share. You need to be careful that you don't share anything super negative or anything. And I think that's the main negative part and that's the main challenge I have to overcome. But with that said, that doesn't mean that my blog is just this whole big positive ball of positivity. It's not like I try to make my blog a true reflection of who I am. And sometimes I do write about like controversial topics, but I try to make it as general as possible and try not to name drop anymore because no one likes that. And yeah, so I've had a positive impact, I like to think. So despite like, I get criticised, I get like trolls, and I get that. In addition, but despite that, I still get a good positive response, and like I think this is the main reason I continue to share, continue to blog, and because I get so many nice messages, more so than criticisms about how like I've helped inspire someone to make a change with their life, like, or learn how to code because I've done it too. And yeah, so I want to leave you with this, because I know you all want coffee. So I want to leave you with this quote, where we just sort of have to realize that the internet is still quite new, and in 20 years' time, we're going to look back and be like, wow, there's been so many opportunities of sharing online with blogging, and I hope that my experiences and all the opportunities I've had that's come from like blogging, from social media, sort of reflect on that. So yeah, thank you.